So, oh, yeah. It should be playing now. It was making an interesting noise before. Okay, you've got audio. You can hear that. Awesome. Okay, so live resize for Azure Premium SSD V2 Ultra disks. That went GA. API management, API center synchronization. It's gone into preview, so that's just making that documentation a little bit simpler and bringing stuff over automatically for you. Elastic Stand for Azure VMware solution. So just fully managed Elastic Stand. We got Azure App Configuration Premium Pricing Plan. Sorry, that's a big mouthful. I'm stumbling over these words. So it's just like a higher, larger scale tier that allows you to have improved SLA, global replication, does more, it's better, higher capacity. Azure cross-subscription load balancer has gone GA. So many months ago, actually, I feel like it's more than 6 months ago, we talked about this coming into preview, and now it's gone GA. So that's where you can have your load balancer with IPs or nodes in different subscriptions. We got load balancer has this health status now, that's gone GA. So that just gives you more detailed health reports from that load balancer. And we've also got admin state, so you can actually force different nodes to be receiving traffic or not receiving traffic, independent of whether they're reporting healthy or not. Azure SQL Hyperscale performance improvements. There's a couple of improvements, bigger database size, more logs, and continuous priming is all about being there ready for a disaster event to occur and having a less interruption. There's a new vector type in Azure SQL, which was really interesting to me. So Azure SQL, I mean, it's got lots of capabilities, a long time ago I had the JSON type, and so it's always improving, always growing. So now for all of our AI needs, we want to store our vectors. Well, we're getting up there. So we've got a new type and a couple of functions that you can now use in Azure SQL for vectors. Storage account default egress limit increased to 200. It's pretty cool. So App Service Environment has now released a memory intensive SKU. So it's basically just the memory level of the higher level SKU. So adding a bunch more features. And we've got Azure Cobalt 100 ARM-based VMs. So 50% improvement over the previous set, which is pretty cool. And VMwatch, finally. VMwatch reporting a whole bunch of statistics, a lot of statistics. So these are the high-level groupings of all of the things that it's reporting. Under that, there's many, many different levels of detail. So that's all reporting up and flowing through. Gives you great visibility. All right, so I think we're going to have a surprise. Not yet. So Ignite, for those people who are following Ignite, it's coming up really soon. That one should be one to watch out for. There it is. It's Movember, let me guess, it's Movember. Nice, and for those of you who don't know who's in this picture, shame on you. This is Dan. So Dan, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, so instead of doing the shave thing, you have the option to do move for November. So I'm pledging to walk or run 60 kilometers this month, so to raise money. So yeah, and having been a survivor of prostate cancer, this is a charity close to my heart. So
nice, very nice. November. All right, a couple of resources. We got our Slack, YouTube, and training. There's a couple of blogs that are worth following. And tonight, without any further ado, we got Vivek. So Vivek currently works for IBM. He's going to talk us through IBM Turbonomic. Sorry, Turbonomic. So for all of those people that are struggling with ClickOps and in that space, here we go.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Ingen.
And if you want to use it.
Oh, clicker?
Yeah.
No, I can't use it. So because I don't have a USB right now. It's all Type C in this one. All right, so hopefully you can see the screen now. Give a second.
Yes.
All good? Great. So thanks, Tim, and thanks, Dan, for having me. So this is like maybe my first attempt in Azure Meetup. So thanks for having me. So my name is Vivek, as Damien will just mention my very old photograph of mine. So with my lots of hairs, because that's I have kept that on my social media so that at least I can feel that I'm still young. So yeah, so the objective is today is that giving you some insights on what IBM is doing in specifically for Azure cloud space. So I thought it's a good opportunity to have a network with you guys over here, so and hopefully some people can view this later on and maybe find some new insights and hopefully can learn from this session, right? So 30%. So like so this number was kind of just have been like maybe kind of a big number that stood my attention, like when Gartner presented this sometime back in last year. So any guess on what this number represents?
People spending their email.
Okay, probably not. So this represents the amount of cloud resources wastage that Gartner assumed for 2023, which stood at approximately 30%. So the total cloud market spend is about $600 billion. So you can well imagine that it's not a trivial amount. It's a fairly large number. So that's one of the things that why a lot of organizations today are focused on just removing the cloud wastage and maybe use it for some other project. So maybe doing more with their existing resources, right? So that's what IBM Turbonomic is all about. So what we are trying to achieve is, so this platform was acquired by IBM in 2020, like after the COVID part of it, so not too long back. So this software platform is all about doing application assurance at the lowest cost. So I'll get more deeper into it. So what that exactly means. So as you can see, these are my details. So if you want to catch up later on, so it's a playlist. You can have a look at it and reach out to me. So I thought of maybe doing it what Turbonomic is all about. So this is my commute from in Sydney. So usually I'll go and sitting in the bus and looking at all the people who have paying more amount of money, but still getting stuck in the traffic, right? So I feel so happy that, oh yeah, I've paid less money, but I'm getting to my destination faster. And that's what Turbonomic is all about. So giving you the performance that you need, but at the lowest cost. So that's how the name came along. Turbo means performance, and nomic means comes from economics. So they merged two names and said that, oh, you can get the performance at the lowest cost. So I'll show you that how we can go and achieve this. So now the question comes in, oh, why we are talking about these things when we have got this fantastic tool called Azure Advisor. So when it is giving you recommendations on based on the well-architected framework from cost pillar to operational excellence, so to performance pillar. So one of the things that came out was that, oh, why don't we take this like recommendation, execute the recommendation that come out from Azure Advisor much quickly, because it requires a lot of manual intervention. I need to consult with my app owners to convince them to take resources and or maybe give out resources, and it's a bit of maybe going back and forth, and there's a lot of conversation happen that slows down customers to take that decision faster and achieve to that stage of when they can automate this whole process, right? So if you see that, and these things are maybe a lot of customers are low hanging fruits, which a lot of customers have already used it across. But if you want to take the next level and say that now I've taken the easy bits, I've taken the easy steps, how can I go and take to the next level, right? So that's where I believe Turbonomic can help customers in that direction. So what Turbonomic is all about? So what we call this as an application supply chain. So what we are doing in this case is we are marrying the world of what the application requirements are to the underlying resources. And this is what the complete supply chain going to look like in the demo that I'm just going to show in a few minutes to you. So all this is relationship comes if you integrate the top level comes from integration from your APM tools, and the below half comes from Azure. So that's what, and these things keep on changing, right? So because application demands keeps on changing, it's not static. The world is not static, right? So, and that's what we're trying to achieve over here is by doing this constant reevaluation of the resources requirement by an application. And then we are trying to marry up, and it's like a supply and demand. So what are the demands from my application, and underlying resources are supplied by, for example, Azure, and I'll give those resources to what application needs. And we'll see how it comes. So what happens like today, if you go into a war room situation that such things have not gone well for customers, so everyone comes in the war room with a different point of view. APM owner will come, oh, there's an application requiring more infra resources. Infra teams can say, oh, look, my storage is all fine, or maybe my computer is all fine. It's not showing me high CPU utilization. So everyone comes in a point of view, and bunch of recommendations are thrown up with their own point of view. There's no marrying up of these recommendations or actions, right? So, and as we go across to a higher complexity level, these things get impossible, and it gets to a scale when it requires the human intervention, means that throwing more number of people, and still you can't solve the problem, right? So, and everyone needs to interpret those tools that how, like for example, I've got APM, I've got my cloud portal giving me the recommendations or the actions, and then you have got the different my on-prem stuff as well coming in, right? So in a lot of cases, hybrid environment. So what we are trying to solve this problem is by doing it more automated, or a platform which can solve these and give you an action to execute, rather than deciphering and making that own decision-making process, right? So it's like we getting maybe a bit front ahead of the issues before it becomes an issue. So it's more of like a proactive approach. So in a sense, what is Turbonomic? So for first criteria is performance. So a lot of people ask, oh, why can't I save money by running like every infrastructure, all my VMs on A0, for example? Any guess maybe why? If money was the criteria, right? So if I have to save money, I can run everything on A0. But why people don't do it?
Very good. Yeah.
because it's going to break things, right? Right. So performance, we won't be able to get the performance. It's going to break, and that's what the IT's job is, to make sure that nothing breaks, right? So that's our first qualifying criteria of continuous performance. We're going to look at the performance as the first metric. That if you need more resources or less resources, that's irrespective of whether you need more investment. Also, our first criteria is to look at the what makes the what makes the application work, so that we're not breaking anything, right? So that's because we don't want to break anything. So I ask any CIO, they're going to say, "Oh, do you want to break things on a cost?" Everybody is going to say, "No, I don't want to break things," right? So the cost, a business wants to save cost, but not the cost of breaking the application, right? And what you want to do is, but do pay at the lowest cost possible. You don't want to over provision the resources, but doing the right way, right? So that's what we are trying to achieve over here is, and finally achieve the cloud elasticity in its true form, right? So give the resources to an application what it demands are, rather than over provisioning, padding up, taking your own buffer. Oh, I think this was a specs required by an application platform, so let me put my 5% on buffer, my own judgment, and then someone else puts 5% on their own buffer. Oh, let me be safe so that things don't break, right? That's what exactly happens, be it on-prem world or be it the Azure world, right? So what we are trying to achieve is the elasticity in this case. So if, in a sense, so again, a new acronym that you would hear, so probably it's a unique category in itself. So we call it as ARM, Application Resource Management. So Turbonomic ARM is a unique tool, which is what is trying to match this application needs, the demands, to the supply that it needs, while maintaining the compliance with the policy. So policies could be, oh, I want to exclude certain tier of virtual cloud instances, certain tiers. I want to have my new VMs to be spun up only in AU region, or maybe I have licensing requirements of I should not be provisioning any 4-socket SQL server, for example, because that's the agreement that I've got with Microsoft. So what we are trying to achieve in this case is three things. So if I were to take three things from today's session, is that it's agentless. We don't deploy any agents anywhere to achieve this. Second is it's agnostic, because you can do the hybrid environment as well. So you can deploy it for your on-prem virtual machines, VMware, Hyper-V, to hyperscaler environment. And it has application awareness, right? So it understands what the application needs are and marries up that with the underlying resources. So how do we do this? We use everything is by API driven discovery. So you do not drop all these dependencies mapping. Everything comes up in a R or two by just doing the discovery from these few of the logos that you see on your right hand side. I'm sure you can identify a lot of logos on the right hand side. So right from the compute to storage to network to virtualization platforms to databases and to the application, so APM tools as well. So we are taking this intelligence in the top half from APM tools and all this information from Azure, and then coming up this relationship, saying that now this is my dependency mapping of my application. All these different colors that you see, red means there's a performance issue. Amber means that you have an option of savings because you have an efficiency that you can get by executing certain actions. Green is all good, right? So that's what it means. And so you're not defining the static thresholds in this case, right? So in every action that you would see in Turbonomic, there is no static thresholds. What we are doing is we are polling the Azure environment every 10 minutes, seeing what's the demands to getting the data from Azure or APM tool, for example, New Relic, Dynatrace, Instana, all those names, AppD, and saying that marrying those two things, that what my application demands are and what the resources supply is, and then giving you the actions to execute. These actions can be automated depending on your appetite, for non-prod environment, for example, I want to just execute the actions, or I can integrate my production environment to ServiceNow, gain through, or maybe CMDB, ITSM change management process, and say that this action will be executed at a certain point of time, depending on my organization's policy. So let me show you quickly now, instead of boring you with the slide stuff, I'll show you this tool in action. So this is what the tool looks like when you integrate these different through APIs. For example, I'll show you the Azure part in this case as well as on the APM side. So the top half information in this case, right from application to transaction, is coming from information is coming from APM tools, and this half is coming from the containers and the VMs, and everything is coming from my Azure API integration. So what it starts showing me the things is, now at the application level, what are the things that it starts giving the trends, what your health looks like, what are the actions that you can take at an application level, and what are the things that you can take actions to on certain categories. So I'll go deeper into it and I'll show you few things in there. So for example, in this case, I'll say that my top business application is Quick Pay. So now these are the actions that why customers pay money for, is because, for example, in this case, let me go and resize the application. It says that you need to make a change in the application. What is the risk? The risk is the virtual memory. What is that I need to actually take is upsize the memory, and how you take it. So it's going to show you the details of it, right? So it's going to show that what exactly it's running today, what's the impact, what is that you need to change it to. So it shows you the before and after. So before state and after state. The things which you are not seeing in this case is the cost part of it, because it's an on-prem environment. So because it's on vCentral right now. So let me show you the stuff on the cloud environment. Any questions before I go further, right? So this is the cloud environment that I've got. So because now you can start seeing the dollar figures as well. So because there's no cost for the on-prem, because it's a one-time cost, right? So on the cloud environment, for example, if I say that, what is that? So it can give me the visibility on which accounts are my top accounts, what's my necessary investments, because there are some applications which are demanding more. So I might be requiring to scale my volumes or VMs. What are my potential saving? And these represents different actions, right? So I can go here. For example, I'll show you that on the database, for example, on the cloud side. So we have got, for example, in this case, it's asking me to scale the database. So I've gone into the actions, scale. So it's asking me to scale the database. And if the action categories, for example, in this case is performance. So it's asking me to scale the database. But the important point that you want to look at is, so it's also saying that the cost impact is going to be less, which is a bit interesting stuff, right? So it's asking me to scale the database to a higher level, but the costing is going to be less. So any thoughts on this one? Why you think it's coming like this? Bunny can give us an answer on this one. So
Yes, changing the SKU type.
Yeah, exactly. So because all the catalogs get refreshed in the backend, and it's humanly impossible to get over like a million options of mapping the instance to the right price points and everything, right? So we are doing that in the backend. So we are showing you what this looks like at this point of time. So which is, for example, let's say that your vCPU utilization is about 95% for the 14-day observation period. What it's going to look like when you take the action, and it's going to give you the price impact, and it's going to give you the impact on your IOPS, CPU, memory, everything. Say that if you make this change, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get from 640 IOPS to 2500 IOPS. but you're going to pay less. Right? So that's what we are trying to achieve in the complex environments. And it gives you a graphic view of your compute, IOPS, memory, everything in a single pane. And by pressing this green button at the bottom, you can make this action executed or through your CI/CD pipelines as organizations' demands are. So that's what is, and you can see. So you can it is going to give you all the database details, and the most important part is for this action is going to tell you whether this action is disruptive or non-disruptive, or it is reversible or non-reversible. So on the top, this one, it's going to give you over here as well that this action can be executed. It's not disruptive because it's a cloud database, and it can be reversible. So same way, as you can see in this case, we've got Cosmos DB and SQL instances. So we support both vCore or DTU options from a pricing perspective. So, and the same way you can do the scaling part for VMs as well. As you can see, we support the 3 hyperscaler clouds. So I'll show you more actions around this. So it's going to say that this is what the category for you is, and we're going to give you the cost and impact for every action, that what the action going to cost you, whether it's requiring more investment or less. The same goes for the volumes. So for volumes, it's going to say that the action is disruptive, non-disruptive, or reversible, non-reversible. So, and we're going to have a different category for these ones. So whether it's a performance one, so for example, in certain cases, it's asking us to scale the volume to higher level. So when you need some additional investments. So that's what this platform is all about, matching the supply from the underlying resources to the demands that's coming from the top, and doing at the lowest cost. And that's what we try and do it in this case is by integrating my APM tools, the data coming from APM tools, to my Azure platform. Any questions before I go and show you something further?
Really awesome. Love it. It's great. For the changes, can it output the actual target state SKUs, for example, memory values, so that they can go back into your source code and config and CMDBs? And how does it do that?
So we integrate to Terraform, for example. So you can integrate and go through the make changes through your change management process. I need to check on that one. Okay. But yeah, so there are various mechanisms to make that change happen. Mm-hmm. So generally, like for example, you can use your CI/CD pipelines to make that change, and through like maybe you can create a new Terraform file to execute those changes. Mm-hmm. So that's the stuff that people have used it across. Okay. So I've got a customer in Sydney, so who is currently going through this. This has been deployed in their workload. So that's what we are doing is we have picked up the non-production workloads, yeah, and made that automated. So because these changes can be manual or automated, because this is polling like every 10 minutes. Yeah. So some changes would go away after some time, that we don't need this change because the application demands are matching to the resources that you have provisioned. So it can be for VMs, it's disruptive in nature. So you need to have a change window of, like, for example, whatever is approved by the business. But cloud database is the easiest one, right? Because these are non-disruptive, on the fly it happens. So you don't need to go through any change management for that one. So that's the start where people start. So I often equate this journey of this platform is to something like we are used to driving a car with our hands on the steering wheel. So it's like putting a cruise control mode on, and finally going to something like an autopilot, wherein the system makes changes only. You are just making sure that system, it's not breaking in, right? So that's what, in this case, whatever in the normal process, what happens? someone who is making a change, why the change management process is slow, someone has to validate that change and they put their own name on the log. Well, yeah, I am authorizing this change, and it's not going to break things for the application. In this case, it's the platform who is making this change. So there's no human who is making that change, and that's why it's more of a trust journey that a lot of time it has, because you want to trust this platform,
Well,
right?
it's more from having code that resembles your state, so you can recover from complete failure, etc., etc.
Yeah, so
like regenerating to the target state. So you have to have that assisted. It can't be a real time thing.
in some cases, for example, the non-production is a kind of real time. I mean, not like it's a 10 minutes interval, because we are polling the Azure API after every 10 minutes. So, and we are making the changes and matching up the needs from the APM tool, right? And saying that, oh, this is what the application needs are. You need to put more resources into it, and may take resources wherever not required. Right? So that's what we try and do it in this case.
Okay.
And we do it for AKS. So we do it for, we do the scaling for based on the pods and the nodes. So we're gonna try and do make sure that the vertical scaling first before going out horizontal. And we have just started supporting the Azure GPU metric collection as well. So we do the same thing. For example, if you are doing like kind of any kind of AI workloads, we require GPU, and as we know that GPUs are expensive. So we want to make sure that the resources are being put into the resources in the right way, so that we do the first the scaling on the GPU, and then add on more GPUs as in the required.
Yeah. So
and on the Azure side, so we are supporting VMs, App Service, Cosmos DB, on SQL databases. So we are doing the managed SQL instances as well. So it's quite comprehensive. So we effectively are doing the IaaS and PaaS platforms from compute, storage, and so that's what it is from the platform perspective. So, yep. And there are a few things more to it.
Support App Insights by any chance?
We used to. In fact, I had App Insights logo, which I removed it today for the presentation, because we just started with decommissioned App Insights just few months back.
Oh, no.
There wasn't enough customer demand for it, so we had very few customers who are using it across, and it was like so majority of customers were using Dynatrace, New Relic, Corebase, and a few other options.
Yeah.
So we used to support App Insights, but we have just made, in the last release, we just ended the support for that one. So yeah, so it's a bit unfortunate. That would have been great from an Azure perspective. So one thing that, it can be consumed as a SaaS, or you can deploy it on your as a VM in Azure, for example, so or on-prem, depending on your preference, where you want to deploy this, or it can be consumed as SaaS. You can buy this from Azure Marketplace. So in Australia now, so finally that's happened. So if customers want to use their committed spend with Azure, so it gives them 100% of, like again, from a value perspective. So that will be considered 100% of the Azure commitment when you buy this from Azure Marketplace. So for customers who are wanting to use their Azure credits, they can use this platform, consume this platform from Marketplace as well. So there are a few things that are there additional in this case. So, but the majority of stuff why people pay money is for these actions, because you want these actions to be given these actions, take these actions and execute it. So just run with it, right? So don't have to go back and forth with app teams and between infra teams and all the teams and getting together and saying that, oh, this action can be taken, not taken, everything, right? So that's what we can do. The interesting part in this case is, so I just want to show you, we can increase. So what happens when you suddenly there's a demand comes in for the resources? So we scale up aggressively, but scale down a bit conservative. So we don't simply start taking all the resources just because the resources are being used. So that's the big part that we play off how we do the scaling part. We support Azure Savings Plan, RI spend, and all the discounts that you have with Azure, all that are being taken into consideration when these actions are taking place. So I know Azure Advisor doesn't take so it takes the retail pricing into account. This one has all your discounts, all the discounts that you have got with Azure. So all these dollar values that you see on the cloud side, all these have Azure savings that plans that you've got committed spend with Microsoft. So that comes into play. It has few other things like parking your workloads. So for example, you've got a scheduled workloads which you want to use during the daytime, you on weekdays. You don't want to turn up those workloads in the weekend, so you can park your workloads. So there's something called a feature called as parking. So you can stop your public cloud workloads on demand. So you can make a schedule that on the weekend, starting from Friday night, 12 p.m., my QA and non-prod environments are not required. I'm going to stop, but turn that back up again on Monday morning at 4 a.m., for example, or 5 a.m., right? So that's we call it parking feature set. So it has some nice dashboards. So this is more about how the executives want to see the dashboards, that how much is the savings by an account, by what are the things, investments that I've done with various. So it's looking at not only just the savings part of it, but also the investment part of it. And also it's looking at the performance risk, that how much investment is required to avoid any kind of performance risk, right? So, but that's one. And more importantly, it does it by maintaining all the policies that you have got defined in Azure. So if you have defined any of the policies, for example, I'll show you the policies part of it. So all these imported policies that you have defined. So we inherit all the policies that you would have defined, that of exclusion of certain database tiers, exclusion of certain instances type, exclusion of, like, again, specific availability zones that you want to have. So we inherit all those policies, and you can make your own as well. And then we give you the option of to execute out of this while maintaining all these policies. And then we finally give you an output of why this action can be trusted. So we are taking care of your compliance needs, right, from IT asset management point of view. So we integrate to tool like Flexera to get the IT asset management and make sure that we are not over consuming from what your ELA that you have signed off with Microsoft. So we take care of that licensing policies and your Azure policies, and when we make a decision. So that's what we do in this case, and that's how these all these actions come into this one. So now you can see that we have got certain actions that can be about from scaling to deleting resources, because we see that some resources are not being utilized. So we will give you the option to delete those ones, and to move your container workloads, or to resize or to suspend. So these are the various actions that you can execute from a platform perspective. It has a reporting dashboard, a nice one. So wherein you can drop all your BI stuff. So we use ThoughtSpot as part of this. So when you can make nice reports out of it. So for example, in this case, we want to see the carbon footprint of your workloads. So that's coming in. So that information can be coming out from, in this case, it's coming from your on-prem environment, but we can do the same dashboard for the information coming from Azure. And we can say that this is your complete carbon footprint for your entire workloads sitting across on-prem or in cloud environment, for example, in Azure. Right. So that's what we do in this case. So there are various dashboarding that you can do. So we've got plenty of dashboard that you can create your own. So these are some of the ones that have been created by the team. So I'll go back again and again coming back on. So we have got specifically for container for AKS. So we support on Red Hat OpenShift environment for on-prem. We support AKS and obviously from the hyperscaler environment as well. So those are the container environment being supported. And you can get into this right from namespace details to the which services are being executed. So it will give you the complete reporting around that one. And more importantly, what actions are to be required. So it says that now you have to maybe suspend or maybe move the certain workloads. For example, in this case, the performance, it says that. So now it will give you these actions right from what actions that you need to take to from a current to destination one. So in this case, for example, it's saying that by moving this pod from one place to another one, so you'll be able to bring down the utilization levels and maybe have the same thing goes from a memory perspective as well. So that's in a nutshell, it's marrying up again supply and demand. So fairly simple way. What my demands are from application and allocating the required resources from the underlying Azure environment. So yeah, so that was a very quick one from my side. So any questions that you've got, so I'm happy to take this up.
What's the business transactions part?
Oh yeah, so it's the number of transaction. It says that it gives you the response time. So I'll give sorry.
How are they instrumented?
So this information is coming from, in this case, for example, when I click on this, so in this case, the information is coming from AppD.
Okay.
So AppD is giving me this application transaction rate and response time. So that's the APM details, and that's the details coming from Azure, for example.
Okay.
So it's saying that now, in this case, for example, my response time is increasing. So what action that I have to take? So, for example, I can go into details. That what is a transaction rate, and what's the response time, and what action I have to take. So in this case, for example, we can say that my VMs need a bit of scaling. So I can delete some of the files, but my VM needs scaling. So I can hover over here and straight away say that I can click on here and get the list of VMs. So it's giving me that I need to resize my V memory for this virtual machine from 512 MB to maybe give me a minute. So I can go into this action. Yeah, that's a new value that it's telling you to go to 1.5.
Cool.
So and it's gonna give me telling me the before and after effect. That what's so in this case, because the target is my vCenter, that's why you won't see the costing part of it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna give me that exact details that when I take this action, so my V memory from 95 percentile will come from 97% to 32% by taking this action. So it gives you that confidence of what happens if you do this, take this action.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it runs all the analysis and say that, and if you're in Azure, for example, so you'll get the cost impact as well. That what's the impact on the if you take this action from a economics point of view. So yeah, that's what it can the platform can do. So additionally, you can run some kind of plans as well.
How much does it cost?
Pay. So there are a couple of mechanisms that customers can consume. One is the cloud percentage of cloud spend, or you can do it on a per VM basis. So that's how it is licensed. So there are two options for customers to consume it as a subscription or as a product. You can run your own plans.
Percentage of total cloud spend or percentage of cloud spend within a subscription?
Percentage of cloud spend within a subscription. So, for example, the account level. So, for example, at account level, you're doing, for example, 100K per month.
Yeah.
So we'll do a percentage of that cloud spend on a monthly basis. So, at custom, like my customers do their own maths that what is, for example, if I've got lots of resources that
So I might have a whole suite of systems that can't have APM because they're too
Yeah.
old or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So I wouldn't want to be paying for those because there's no real benefit of this tooling.
there is. So what happens in this case is you would see only this part.
Yeah.
So you won't have the application visibility, but you're gonna still have the visibility on your database utilizations or VM scaling. It won't be able to marry up that which application is needing those resources. That's the linkage that you would miss out if you don't have APM.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Because a lot of customers don't have 100% of APM coverage, right? So they will have only for 5% or 10% of coverage for critical workloads, for example. So I've got a customer who have like only 20% of coverage on APM.
Okay.
So that's the part that you're gonna miss out. You're gonna still have the database, but it won't show you. When I, for example, over here, I click and it says that it completely gives the right from application to transaction to the virtual machine. So you're gonna miss out, and you're gonna see this part only.
Yeah.
So you won't have that application awareness if you don't have APM coverage.
Yeah.
And you can also run your own plans. For example, if you are to, for example, if I want to run from migrate my workloads, be it container or be it my VMs, and I want to migrate to a cloud, so I can say that, oh, I want to run, for example, for this particular subscription, for example, so I'll just search for Azure. So, and I want to migrate this to, for example, so another cloud platform, for example, and which reason it is, and then, for example, I want to do it for Sydney, and then I would say run the plan. So it can gonna give you that plan results, that how much it's going to get you. So it can help you in certain migration projects as well. So wherein it can calculate the number of resources or what's going to require if you're doing from on-prem workloads to maybe Azure, for example, and then that will take the, for example, you can provide your discounted cost as well into it. So if you're doing, for example, you can run your own plan. So I'll say that I've got certain plans which are already running. So in this case, so it's going to show you the results that how much you're going to end up saving, because this is a demo environment. So how much is the on-demand compute cost you're going to save if you're going to do it, if you're just going to do a lift and shift versus green one is the optimized by Turbonomic. So it gives you that cloud economics, that how much is the cost benefit for organizations to run with just by lift and shift or by having optimized by Turbonomic. So it's going to give you the complete summary of those platforms perspective. So yeah, and again, the easier part is there's no agent, nothing to it, just the API. Like in Azure, you create a service principal, you create, give the right access keys, and you integrate your Azure billing targets, and that's it. So you don't have to, like, within few hours, the time to value is like within few hours, you'll get to this, all these dependency mapping gonna come in while you integrate your Azure and APM. The hard bit is take an action. So to convince that, yeah, you can leave that steering wheel on a car and let the machine decide that how they want to stay in the lane. So that's the a bit of journey that customers undertake and doing it across. So for example, so a partner of ours was just doing it. So customer is not buying anything in this case. So customer has the partner is delivering as an outcome. So saying that, oh, I'm going to deliver an outcome of having better performance with lesser price. Mm-hmm. So that's on them. So to say that, oh, I'm going to show you that 10% savings on their existing resources. So that's cool. So so it's depends on how your environment has been set up. So, but yeah, so the customers typically see like maybe in excess of double-digit savings for sure. And the SaaS offering, we have got in-country deployment on the platforms on the hyperscale environment. So if customer want to just consume the SaaS, so the current data stays within the country. So yeah, so that was it from my side. I hope that was useful. So because a lot of time when I go into these meetups and then what is Turbonomic? I've never heard of this tool called ARM. What is this new tech abbreviation we have to learn? So hopefully it was useful, and yeah. So thanks for having me here. Thanks again. So I'll let it. Okay,
With not being a regular attendee, since you don't live in Queensland, you wouldn't know, but we appreciate all our speakers all the time. And we have
okay. No, thanks, and I really appreciate that.
Hopefully be able to get that home on the plane.
Oh no. I didn't realize. So probably we can have it here. So if it's you want to open it up.
Oh, will they actually stay? Will domestic
Yeah.
flights still?
Should be fine. Should be fine.
If you can put it in luggage, you can fit it in the luggage. Yeah.
We'll finish at the airport.
Yeah. But I got a morning flight, so probably you can. In the first flight itself, going out from here. Thanks for having me here. So yeah, I hope we can maybe come along maybe and showcase more about like what IBM is doing specifically in this domain. So, for example, there's other tools on well-architected framework. So we have got tools on the cost optimizations, for example. So yeah, we are happy to come back again and showcase some of the more innovations that we are focusing on. And yeah, so all these things are available in Azure Marketplace. So for the easier consumption for the customers. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Was there anybody online?
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't see anybody online.